Hi, good morning. This is Dr. Nehru. Today we are discussing about experimental research methods. In the last video, we are discussed about educational research and different educational research methods and characteristics. Today we are detailed discussion on educational research methods and design. That is experimental research, design types, examples, and methods. Okay, this experimental research is the most familiar type of research design individuals in the physical science and a host of other fields. This is mainly because of experimental research is classical scientific experiment similar to those performed in high school science classes. Imagine taking two examples of the same plant and exposing one of them to sunlight while the other is kept away from the sunlight. Let the plant exposed to sunlight be called as a sample A, while the latter is called sample B. If after the duration of the research we found out of that sample A grows and B dies, even though they are both regularly watered and give same treatment, before we can conclude that sunlight will aid growth in all similar plants. So this is an example. Then what is experimental research? Experimental research is a scientific approach to research where one or more independent variables are manipulated and applied to one or more dependent variables to measure their effect on their latter. The effect of the independent variables on the dependent variables is usually observed and recorded over some time to aid researchers in doing a reasonable conclusion, gathering the relationship between these two variables. The experimental research method is widely used in physical and social science, psychology, and education. It is based on the comparison between two or more groups, which is straightforward logic, which may, however, to be difficult to execute. Mainly related to a laboratory test, produce experimental research designs involve collaborative qualitative data and performing statistical analysis on them during the research. Collective quantitative data and performing statistical analysis on them during the research. Therefore, making it an example of quantitative research method. What are the types of experimental research design? The types of experimental research design are determined by the way the researcher assigns subjects to different conditions and groups. They are of three types, namely pre-experimental, quasi-experimental, and true experimental research. Then we are discuss about pre-experimental research design. In pre-experimental research design, either a group or various dependent groups are observed for the effect of the application of an independent variable, which is presumed to cause change. It is the simplest form of experimental research design and is treated with no control group. Although every practical experimental research is lacking in several areas of true experimental criteria. The pre-experimental research design is further divided into three types. The three types are one host case study research, one group pretest post-test research design, static group comparison. These are the three types of research design. We will come to the first one shot case study research design. In this type of experimental study, only the dependent group or variable is considered. The study is called out after some treatment which was presumed to cause change, making a post-test study. One group pre-test, post-test research design. Means in this one pre-test and after the post-test is also here administered. This research design combines both post-test and pre-test study by carrying out test on a single group before the treatment is administered and after the treatment is administered. With the former beginning administered at the beginning of the treatment and later at the end. This is about pre-test, post-test research design. The third one is static group comparison. In static group comparison study, 2 or more groups are planned under observation, where only one of the groups is subjected to same treatment while the other groups are held static. All the groups are post-tested and observed differences between the groups are assumed to be a result of the treatment. These are the 3 types of research designs. And the next one is quasi-experimental research design. The quasi means partial, half, or pseudo. Therefore, the quasi-experimental research bearing a responsible to the true experimental research but not the same, means it's not like a true experimental research. In quasi-experiments, the participants are not randomly assigned and as such, they are used in settings where randomization is difficult or impossible. There is very common in educational research where administrators are unwilling to allow the random selection of the students for experimental research. Some examples of quasi-experimental research design includes the time series, no equal control group design, and the control balance design. This is about quasi-experimental research design. Next one is true experimental research design. The true experimental research design relies on statistical analysis to approve or disapprove hypothesis. It is the most accurate type of experimental design and may be carried out without a pretest on at least 2 randomly assigned dependent subjects. The true experimental research design must contain a control group, a variable that can be manipulated by the researcher, and the distribution must be random. The classification of the true experimental design includes the post-test only controlled group design. The second one is the pre-test, post-test control group design. The third one, Solomon 4-group design. These are the 3 different control group design experimental methodology designs. The first one is the post-test only control group design. In this design, subjects are randomly selected and assigned to 2 groups, controlled and experimental, and only the experimental group is treated. After close observation, both groups are post-tested and conclusions is drawn from the difference between these groups. So this is post-test only. This is post-test only control group. Second one, pre-test post-test control group design. For this control group design, subjects are randomly assigned to 2 groups. Both are presented, but only the experimental group is treated. After close observation, both groups are post-tested to measure the degree of change in each group. So this is about pre-test, post-test control group. The third one, Solomon 4-group design. This is the combination of the pre-test only and the pre-test, post-test control groups. In this case, the randomly selected subjects are planned into 4 groups. The first 2 of these groups are tested using the post-test only method, while the other 2 are tested using pre-test and post-test method. This is about the 3 control group designs. Next one, examples of experimental research. What are the examples? Now we will discuss. Explain the research examples are different depending on the types of experimental research design that is being considered. The most basic example of experimental research is laboratory experiments, which may differ in nature of depending on the subject of research. It's a depend upon subject of research. Administering the exams after the end of the semester. For example, during the semester, student is a class or lectured a particular course and an exam is administered at the end of the semester. In this case, the students are the subject are dependent variables, while the lectures are the dependent independent variables treated on the subjects. Only one group of carefully selected subjects are considered in this research, making it pre-experimental research design examples. We will also notice that tests are only carried out at the end of the semester and not the beginning, further making it easy for us to conclude that it is a one-shot case study research. That is for example, that experimental research. Next, employee skill evaluation. This is for another example. Before employing a job seeker, organization conduct tests that are used to screen out of less qualified candidates from the pool of qualified applicants. This way, organizations can determine an employee skills set at the point of employment. This is the first one for screening. In the course of employment, organizations also carried out employee training to improve the employees' productivity and generally grow the organization. Further evaluation is carried out at end of each training to test the impact of the training on employee skills and test for improvement. Here, the subject is the employee, while the treatment is the training conduct. This is the pre-test, post-test control group experimental research example. Next, evaluation of teaching. This is another example for experimental research. Let us consider an academic institution that wants to evaluate the teaching method of two teachers to determine which is best. Imagine a case whereby the students assigned to each teacher is carefully selected, probably due to personal request by the parents or due to the subordinateness and smartness. This is no equivalent group design example because the sample are not equal. By evaluating the effectiveness of each teacher's teaching method is way we may conclude after a post-test has been carried out. However, this may be influenced by factors like natural sweetness of a student. For example, a very smart student will grab more easily than his or her peer, irrespective of the method of teaching. So this is another example. Out of all this, what we are discussed from out of all this, we are drawn the characteristics of experimental research. What are the characteristics of experimental research? Variables. The experimental research, here it is the three variables, main variables, variables, settings, and multi-variable. What are the variables now we will see? What are the characteristics? Experimental research contains dependent, independent, and extraneous variables. The dependent variables are the variables being treated on, manipulated, and sometimes called the subjects of the research. And the next point is in these variables, the independent variables are the experimental treatment being extended on the dependent variables. Extraneous variables, on the other hand, of other factors affecting the experiment that may be also contributed to the change. The next one is setting. The setting is where experiment is carried out. Many experiments are carried out in the laboratory where control can be extended on the extraneous variables, thereby eliminating them. And it's continue. Other experiments are carried out in a less collaborative settings. The choice of the setting using in a research depends on the nature of the experiment being carried out. This is settings about the experimental research. The next one is multivariable. Experimental research may include multiple independent variables like time, skills, test, scores, and etc. These are all some of the characteristics for experimental research. Why we use experimental research design? Why not others? Why exclusively? Experimental research design can be majorly used in physical science, social sciences, education, and psychology. It is used to make predictions and draw conclusions on this subject matter. Some use of experimental research design is one of the most popular one is medicine. Experimental research is used to provide the proper treatment for diagnosis. In most cases, rather than directly using patients as the research subject, researchers take a sample of the bacteria from the patient's body and treated with the development antibacterial. The changes observed during this period are recorded and evaluated to determine its effectiveness. This process can be carried out using different experimental research methods. The next one come to the education, come to our field. Education, aside from the science subjects like chemistry and physics, which involves teaching students how to perform experimental research, it also can be used in improving the standards of an academic institution. This includes testing students' knowledge on different topics, coming up with better teaching methods, and the implementation of other programs that will aid students' learning. This is in education. For we are conducting experimental research, teaching methods, and implementation of other programs that will aid students' learning. And the third one is human behavior. It's for psychology. Social scientists are the ones who mostly used experimental research to test human behavior. For example, consider two people randomly chosen to be subject of the social interaction. Research where a person is placed in a room without human interaction for a year. The other person is placed in a room without a few other people enjoying human interaction. There will be a difference in their behavior at the end of the experiment. And that is for psychology. Another one is user interface and user experience. During the product development phase, this is for especially in technology, or maybe in the market or commerce and market, or any new product is coming, or even in education also, any new program is also coming. So this is also example for user interface or user experience. Product development phase. During the product development phase, one of the major aims of the product team is to create a great use experience with the product. Therefore, before launching the final product design, potentials are brought into the interact with the product. For example, when finding it's difficult to choose how to position a button or feature on the app interface, a random sample of product tests are allowed to test the two samples and how the button posting influence the user interaction recorded. This is for even especially for mobile and other technical devices designed for in experimental research. And the next dimension is what are the we have seen what are the we have discussed about different methods and all. Now, what are the disadvantages of experimental research? Then we'll discuss about advantages. It's a highly prone to human error due to the dependency and the variable control, which may not be properly implemented. These errors could be eliminated in the validity of the experiment and the research began conducted. And the next one is extending control of the extraneous variables may created unrealistic situations, and eliminating real life variables will be resulted in inaccurate conditions. This may also result in researchers controlling the variables to shoot his or her personal performances. It is a time-consuming process. So much time is spent on testing, development, variable, and waiting for the effect of the manipulation of the development variable to manifest. It is expensive. It's also expensive. It is very risky and may have ethical complications that cannot be ignored. This is a common in medical research where field trials may lead to patient's death or deteriorating health conditions. Experimental research results are not descriptive. Response basis can also be supplied by the subject of the conversation. And next one is human responses in experimental research can be defined to measure. Can be measured. Then what are the data collection methods? methods in experimental research before we are discussing about? Yes, I will discuss. In this, the experimental research methods are observational studies and simulation and surveys. These are the three types also we are also conducted. And difference between experimental and non-experimental research methods. In experimental research, the researcher can control and manipulate environment in research, including the pre-detector variables, which can be changed. On the other hand, non-experimental research can be controlled or manipulated by the researcher at will. This is because it takes place in real-life setting where extra variables cannot be eliminated. Therefore, it is more difficult to conclude non-experimental studies, even though they are much more flexible and allow for a greater range of study fields. The relationship between cause and effect cannot be established in non-experimental research, while it can be established in experimental research only. This may be because many extraneous variables also influence in change in the research subject, making it difficult to point at particular variable as the cause of particular change. And the next one is the next important area point is we want to take into consideration. Independent variables are not introduced, withdrawn, or manipulated in non-experimental designs, but the same may not be said about experimental research. Next conclusion. Experimental research designs are often considered to be standard in research design. This partly due to common misconception that research is equivalent scientific experiments, a component of experimental research design. In this research design, one or more subjects are dependent variables are randomly assigned to different treatments. Example, independent variables manipulated by the researcher, and the results are observed to conclude. One of the unique of the experimental research is its ability to control the effectiveness of extraneous variables. And the next one is the lastly, experimental research is suitable for research whose goals is to examine cause-effect relationship. For example, explanatory research. It can be concluded in the laboratory or field settings depending on the aim of the research that is being carried out. Thank you. Thank you very much. So this is about today. We will discuss about experimental research methods. Experimental research methods, especially we have discussed about different methods, uses, examples, and maybe this is useful for your examinations and even assignments also. Thank you.